But maybe it's just my mood. And you've been angry, Brian Last, lately. I chided you gently.
Oh, come on.
About that right before we went on the air here for public consumption. How does it feel to be consuming us, ladies and gentlemen? You've been, because your time has been short. It's getting near the holidays. You got the family there. I've got the Castle Empire here and the Cornette's Collectibles customers. You've got the Arcadian Vanguard network. I have a puppy with its belly that needs to be rubbed. We got a lot going on. And having to sit down and peruse this programming for potential review, critique, dissection, and dissertation has been weighing on you more heavily than it has on me. I hope you'll be in a more cordial tone here this week as we relate some activities for the folks.
I think anyone who listens to these shows regularly knows that I'm a pretty happy-go-lucky, fun-loving guy, but sometimes, and it's happened a few times recently, the state of modern wrestling gets to me only because I have to watch it. But other than that, I love life, and every day is wonderful and beautiful.
The happy-go-lucky Brian Last, everybody.
That's right. Footloose and fancy-free.
That actually was a song on Jerry Lawler's first album, Happy-Go-Lucky. I'm trying to think of who wrote it. My God, I've looked at the back of that album and the songwriting credits and everything. He covered a Jagger and Richards tune. He covered some old Memphis and Nashville oriented stuff, but when I'm happy-go-lucky, lucky in love with you, it was an amazing release. You remember that album, Brian?
No, I'm not. I'm not a big fan of the Jerry Lawler albums and Jerry Lawler singles, and other than Wimp Busters, which is late era Lawler when it comes to the album catalog. I'm not a big fan of Lawler the singer.
But now that first album, he had the Elvis, because it was 1978, right? He had the Elvis Presley full length black jumpsuit. Didn't have rhinestones and shit, but the full length black jumpsuit open at the chest with the hairy chest and everything. He and Dundee was starting to do that right at that point. Dundee went full on Vegas Elvis jumpsuit. Lawler tried to stay more with the fucking, the cool black and the sunglass Elvis kind of thing. But that first album, it was but you can't tell me that you didn't like Bad News. You're not old enough to be a Bad News fan.
You're right. I mean, I'm not a Bad News fan. I don't know if age has anything to do with it. I think taste is probably more the reason for it.
No, because that was heel Lawler in like 1970 fucking, oh my God, it was 74, right? So it was heel Lawler. Wrestlers didn't do records at all back then. They play that video on TV. The old John D. Loudermilk song, Bad News travels like wildfire, good news travels slow. They all call me old wildfire because everybody knows that I'm bad news. They tried to hang me in Nashville. They did down in Tupelo, but I wouldn't choke. I broke the rope, so they had to let me go because I'm bad news. That was fucking classic.
Oh, yeah.
But Jimmy Hart's songwriting and musical chops did help Lawler's later submissions, recordings, whatever you might call it.
I think I've told you before, but my philosophy is, and I like some of Jimmy Hart's stuff, but I think as a songwriter, he's overrated even for wrestling.
Oh, come on.
Because, listen to me, hear me out. You could take any Jimmy Hart song, and it's Blue Suede Shoes. Any Jimmy Hart song you could sing to the tune of Blue Suede Shoes, and it works, because that's every single song he writes. For the most part, there are a few exceptions.
Eat Your Heart Out, Rick Springfield was a hot number.
Until people forgot who Rick Springfield was in 1985.
Well, and what about Barbra Streisand's Nose that was later...
Lance Russell's Nose.
Later switched to Lance Russell's Nose. And of course, there was the old, Tammy, why not give George another chance?
What's your favorite Jimmy Hart song?
We Hate School. It had to
Okay.
be. But besides, I heard that literally every fucking night. I was the guy that was, for example, in Evansville, Indiana, I would carry the tape player that they would use to play the entrance, because not everybody had entrance music back then, right? It was only for the main event guys. So for Handsome Jimmy, Son of a Gypsy, which Jimmy Hart wrote. See there? And what?
Hold on. Okay, Son of a Gypsy. Now, you know the lyrics. We all know the lyrics.
I was about to say, because I would carry these things around at the spot shows in Evansville. I had the tape player at the spot shows. On Thursdays, I had the tape player. I listened to them in Louisville. I memorized these fucking songs. I heard them in my sleep. I came rolling into Memphis, TWA, tell all the ladies Handsome Jimmy's on his way. I'm a rocker and a roller, a little funky too. I was raised by the Gypsies. You know, baby, Handsome's cool.
Again, to my philosophy of blue suede shoes. I came rolling into Memphis, TWA, tell all the women Handsome Jimmy's on the way. Don't you step on my blue suede shoes. Every song is blue suede shoes.
Tell all the ladies, Jimmy's on the loose. They can run and hide, but they can't fly the coop. I'm a rocker and a roller, a little funky too.
A lot of people think he says a little funky Jew because it absolutely sounds like he's saying that.
Well, see, nobody thought that in Tennessee. They thought he was saying something about he was going to fuck somebody too. See, they didn't automatically go to the Jewish element. They went to the fucking.
But you see, you said not a lot of guys had records, but actually, I mean, there may have been more records in that territory in the early days than anyone else. I mean, Len Rossi had a record, The Wrestler's Prayer.
Yep. Fargo
had a record, right?
Sputnik
had a record. Plowboy Frazier had a record.
Sputnik's in, 1960? Pencil Neck Geek was goddamn Blassie. But,
yeah.
Goddamn Sputnik's record. Now you've scared the title out of me. Oh, fuck. Well, anyway, we'll come back and put that in later so it looks like I know what I'm talking about. But anyway, he just did all of his shit, all of his promo lines. You know, what's the matter with you, ignorance? Over some song, some musical background. It wasn't really that he was singing or anything, but it's still people loved it. But the reason why all the Memphis guys had records, or there was so many records out of the Memphis territory, is two things. Number one, Memphis was a huge, hotbed of music and a center of, Sun Records and everybody else. Secondly, Sam Phillips, his sons loved wrestling and they loved Sputnik Monroe. Knox and Jerry were, like in Sputnik's fan club. And then Jackie Fargo was so big in Memphis that he was hooked up with that country singer, Eddie Bond, that he owned a radio station. And then Lawler was the most popular local celebrity on television. And everybody, as a matter of fact, several members of the Atlanta rhythm section played on some of Lawler's records at that point in time. They had legitimate musicians, doing stuff with the wrestlers because wrestling was so big in that territory. So that's why there were so many records, whether all the guys could sing or not. I mean, Plowboy Frazier, for heaven's sake.
No Dundee record, though.
Oh, can you imagine?
I wish. I wish.
I think Dundee was probably too egotistical to do anything that he wouldn't have been really good at. And I can't see that happening.
Come on, Bill.
Whereas some of the other guys didn't have such qualms as that. But actually, Lawler, Lawler had a few things that worked, and they produced him. I mean, Phil Spector didn't set up a wall of sound like they did over the top of some of Jerry's vocals. But Handsome Jimmy was himself, and that song was really him. Most of the guys that did something, it fit who they were, and they weren't really trying to necessarily transition into a music career. They were just trying to, but I guarantee you Jimmy Valiant sold easily 25,000 copies of that 45 record at the matches in the Tennessee territory.
Yeah, and how many copies has he sold since then that was the one, remember, a few years back, Scott Cornish saw a copy, I don't know if it was on eBay or somewhere, but it was being sold by Big Mama. Like she had copies of Jimmy's records. And he wanted to buy one, and she said, she was very nice. Like, okay, give me a little while to get back to you. And he gave her a little more than a little while, and he got back in touch. He goes, hey, I'm still interested. And she responded, I'm starting to think you don't deserve this record.
It was probably in a box in one of the garages that she got in that settlement.